Brilliant. Okay. Hi, everybody. It's Masha Chowdhury here from the franchise company. I've sort of taken over duties for First Friday on behalf of Julie, who's away in sunnier climes. Today, we're going to be hearing from Penny Hopkinson, who's an experienced franchise operations manual specialist, and it's an area that I deal a lot with in the franchise company. So it's something that I'm actually looking forward to because I'm sure I'll pick up loads of tips and steal lots of ideas from her. So I'm going to pass you over to Penny, who will go through a slide and hopefully we'll all learn a thing or two. So Penny, the ball's in your court.
Right. Moment. Right. Hello, everyone. As Matt introduced me, I'm Penny Hopkinson, author of Manual Magic, Create the Operations Manual Your Franchisors Need to Succeed. I'm a passionate advocate for bringing operations manuals back to life by turning them into something people actually use, value, and engage with. The contrast between the dusty operations manual and the bright, engaging digital screen represents the shift we'll be discussing, moving from static, cumbersome information to a dynamic, empowering platform. Let's first address the elephant in the room. Are operations manuals obsolete? In their traditional form, yes. But what could they be is far from obsolete. They just need to evolve. What we need now is a dynamic, interactive knowledge-sharing environment, a living, breathing, learning ecosystem that captures best practice, reflects culture, and is as easy to use as scanning a QR code. Sally managed a coffee shop. To celebrate the shop's anniversary, she picked up some walnut bread, her favourite, as a treat for her customers. It never occurred to her to check the manual, gathering dust somewhere on a shelf. Had she done so, she would have understood that products containing nuts must be clearly labelled. The sandwiches she so lovingly prepared as a treat suddenly became lethal. There was nothing to warn a regular customer about the switch. He'd expected to eat his usual sandwich, but had an allergic reaction and died. His family and friends were devastated. The shop was closed. Sally was prosecuted. Why? Because she didn't know what she didn't know. The manual existed, but it wasn't easily accessible. It wasn't relevant. It wasn't engaging. Put in chat what you think the real cost of obsolete manuals is. It's lost time, legal risk, damaged reputations, poor training, high turnover, and the consequences of a disengaged manual are often invisible until they're catastrophic. A manual isn't just a document you must provide to your franchisees. It should be the embodiment of your brand, your promise, your values. It's not a document to ignore, but a powerful reference that enables great decisions to scale a business. At 12, I watched my father operate a hot wire cutter in his factory. Then suddenly he said, "Now you've seen how it works, try it." Although cutting blocks of polystyrene wasn't complicated, the wire was heated to a whopping 600 degrees Fahrenheit. It demanded more than a certain degree of care. He taught me to be curious, showing how things worked, everything from machines in his factory to his inventions to kill weeds on our lawn. That curiosity led me to become a trade and technical journalist and editor of Media International, the European Journal for Planners of International Advertising. This put me at the forefront of the world's top publishers and advertising agencies. Then, after a decade as a Middle East correspondent, once a guest of Saddam Hussein, I transitioned to quality correspondent for the Institute of Purchasing and Supply publications, learning about total quality management, quality circles, and Kaizen. This experience inspired me to launch Manual Writers International in 1986, using TQM as the foundation for every manual I help SMEs and multinationals create. My first major client and proof of concept was a bit of a baptism of fire. It was the Corporation of Lloyd's of London. I had to underpin the Lloyd's Act and multiple bylaws, which were forever changing, to create procedures for the underwriting agents. I soon discovered the powerful synergy between TQM and the franchise model, working with clients like Champneys Clubs and Spas, and that was my first one with Stoy Hayward, now BDO Stoy Hayward, and their retail specialist, going on to Prontoprint, Bang & Olufsen, Costa Coffee, the AA, and Wiltshire Farm Foods. Now, the old way doesn't work. Traditional manuals are too long, too dry, too out of date. They're written to tick boxes, not to be used. Many franchisors find creating them, well, boring. Their teams aren't engaged in the process. They have their day job and find it difficult to fit in extra work involved. Who's reading the manual? Theoretically, 5 generations can now share a workplace, although not in most franchises. They'll be represented across the network, though. Research suggests that 30% of the global workforce is under 30 and rising. They're much less likely to read books, preferring bite-sized visual information. Millennials and Generation Z are the YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok generations who learn from their peers. Tech-savvy Generation Z want quick, instantly accessible information at the point of need, as needed. They won't go through, flick through loads of pages, go through a portal, try and find the information they want. They just don't have that attention span. Then digital natives, Generation Alpha, soon to join the workforce, are born almost with a tablet in their hands. So older team members will want to read. Younger team members prefer to watch. Most want to interact. If your manual doesn't speak to their style, it won't stick. If you don't cater to the diverse learning styles and abilities, the business system won't be replicated faithfully across the network. So what makes a magic manual? A magic manual is engaging, easy to access, and co-created with your franchise teams, something that most franchisors never consider. It uses video, visuals, micro-learning. It's simple, it's digital, and it grows with your business. Picture this. You run a bakery, like Patisserie Penelope, my fictional franchise in my book. It's part of a network of 40. Mary, a long-standing team member, knows it's essential that the butter is at the right temperature when making a Victoria sponge. Otherwise, it won't combine effortlessly with other ingredients. There's a lot of ingredient wastage, and Mary hears on the grapevine that customers in many territories are complaining about heavy, awful sponges. She wonders why that's happening. Investigating, she realizes the kitchen hand isn't getting the butter out of the fridge in time, so it doesn't soften naturally. Arriving early one day, she sees Carl blasting a big block of butter in the microwave until it melts, making it too liquid and too warm to use. That's why the sponge mix is all wrong, she thinks. Instead of making her colleague look foolish, Mary calls her manager. I think I can fix this, she says. If I record a quick process on my phone, would that help? Her manager agrees, and Mary teams up with Carl the kitchen hand to create 15 short video snippets on a smartphone to form an SOP. Mary films Carl's hands, but without showing his face or recording dialogue. As Mary uploads the video snippets to the dynamic knowledge sharing system, she adds simple captions. Everyone can then follow the process step by step at their own pace. She checks back with her manager. She loves it. Head office is delighted too, so they publish it for the network and create a QR code. This is output on a label printer and placed in every franchise, on every fridge. The kitchen hand captures the QR code on a smartphone camera to instantly access the butter softening procedure. Irrespective of the caption input, they can read or listen to the captions in their preferred language and watch video snippet by snippet at their own pace, so following the procedure precisely. Captions also cater to people with hearing difficulties, especially in noisy environments. The QR code is the fastest way for any team member anywhere to get precisely the help they need within seconds. The bakers compliment Mary, who's filled with a deep sense of pride. Head office rewards her with a £100 voucher, and she and the franchise enter the Franchisor's Idea of the Year award at the franchise conference. At the annual conference, everyone wants to see who wins. They know it's a prestigious prize. The winner has produced a video sequence that benefits the entire network. Mary's few hours of filming have improved wastage by 70% and customer satisfaction by a whopping 98%, keeping bakers from tearing their hair out. Mary wins the competition and receives £1,000. Her franchise picks a training course worth £3,000. Everyone's inspired to keep the manual fresh and engaging. It becomes a team effort with people eager to see who'll scoop next year's prize. With active, incentivized peer-to-peer engagement, a franchise can reduce accidents, incidents, and wastage and improve customer satisfaction and employee retention. When tasks are simplified and time is saved, it's a win-win for everyone. An innovation award is another nudge that encourages franchise teams to stay ahead and involved. There should be multiple ways for users to give feedback. All new ideas for improvement now come from the experts on the ground. This is a long-term approach, and bright ideas are rewarded fairly. Problem solved, wastage reduced, staff empowered. So how will it work? Well, here's a very broad framework. First of all, you need to assess the network's learning styles. Then you categorize their intellectual property to create a detailed framework, the blueprint of the business system. Then you use that detailed framework to project manage development of the manual or knowledge sharing system, which I prefer. Identify the content you will need from that. The more visual, the better, and what works for franchisees, not just a means of compliance. And where do you start? Well, most franchisors delay creating or updating their manual because they don't know where to begin, or it's become overwhelming. Many of the time I've worked with a franchisor whose manual is about 10 years out of date. So start with frequently asked questions, involve your teams, create how-to videos of what's already working, keep it simple, and build from there. Turn information into engagement. Don't do it alone. Involve your team, use smartphones, record one to 2 minute tips, keep videos captioned, clear, searchable, make it easy, make it fun, make it shared. Use staff-led content, make it mobile friendly, build gradually, not necessarily perfectly, but peer-to-peer engagement is the essence. Because they now, employees now, or team members now prefer a bottom-up style rather than top-down. What's possible with a magic manual? Imagine a new team member feels confident on day one. Your team checks the knowledge sharing platform without hesitation. Your brand is protected without micromanaging. To me, that's the future of operations. And why it matters is, well, Sally's story is a tragedy, but it's also a lesson. Manuals aren't obsolete, they're just due for a reinvention, one that speaks to today's workforce and tomorrow's risks. If you'd like more information about building a knowledge sharing ecosystem, capture the first QR code on your camera. Here you'll find loads of articles that I've written in Franchise World. I guest on, last year it was about 25 podcasts, this year it's about 40. And I do this all over the world, talking about knowledge sharing and how to build a true knowledge sharing environment. If you want to know more about the operations manual, I have Ask My Wizard, my friendly agents, and they can, or my agent can answer almost any question about the operations manual. If we're not already connected, please do connect on LinkedIn. I publish a regular newsletter called Manual Magic Moments. I think we're up to about 14 issues now, dealing with every aspect of creating an operations manual. And it's not just video, because many franchisors still want to create a manual that's text only. I'm not sure that you will get the good return on investment from text only, but nevertheless, a lot of people want to do this. And the second QR code is direct to Amazon. If anybody wants to find a copy of Manual Magic, create the operations manual your franchisees need to succeed. This is really the only book of its type, I think, anywhere on Amazon. It's been endorsed by the BFA with a forward IPIP, and it shows you how to turn your manual into a living system that grows your business and protects your team. Thank you for the opportunity to share my message, and I hope this gives you food for thought about using text-heavy manuals and create clarity, protect your teams, and engage your franchise teams for success. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Penny. Really appreciate that. Let me just bring up the slide. Great. So It'd be great to get sort of questions from the group. So if anybody has any sort of questions, it'd be great.
Penny, I've actually got your book. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
ordered it last week. I haven't got very far, I'm going to be honest, but I'm going for how detailed is this on the whole journey and how we start setting up? Because we've only been doing franchising sort of more so the last year. And already we know that our manual is behind the times. So we really want to update and go forward into a digital format. Just wondering, sort of, as I'm working through this, I get towards the end, I'm presuming I'm going to have a lot more information on what we need also now with your LinkedIn connection as well.
It's incredibly detailed. What I wanted was for the small franchisors, ones who didn't have the budget to create an all singing, all dancing manual with a consultant, to be able to have all the detail you need to create an operations manual. So it's a 3-step process. It starts with creating the structure, a really highly detailed structure, which is the blueprint of your business system, how you use it to project manage and set milestones and keep to budget, then how you create all the content, whether it's visual or whether it's text-based. Then it goes into the whole of the drafting process and the editing process. My background is as an editor. I suppose I've been editing for the best part of 25 years. So all my knowledge on how I do it is in there. And then, depending on what stage of the process of franchising and building your network is, there are the 3 main ways to share knowledge, which can be cloud-based to begin with, something like Dropbox or SharePoint, Microsoft SharePoint, or a portal. So that would be something like a knowledge sharing center, something that Louise Harris does very well with the Ops portal. And then finally, there's the dynamic knowledge sharing platform where you can upload all the video snippets. You can have every single tool that you need to create that ecosystem. And you can measure and analyze who's using what. And when the video snippets making this little procedure are up on the platform, other members of the network can also look at them and say, I think we do ours a little better. Let's try and put ours beside it to see whether this can be improved. And then head office will say, yes, actually, this is a better way of doing it. Let's adopt that one as opposed to the current one. So it's always being updated by the teams.
No, that's great, because I've got the advantage of MASH did my manual for me about 18 months ago, I think. But we're now realizing that as we're growing, that we need to put more in it. We need to be more involved. So this would work for us. So thank you. Thank you for that.
And if you want to see how it works in a fictional franchise, I've got my fictional franchise called Patisserie Penelope. And that was based on my mother's cooking and my love of lovely cakes. I came back from school. And so I built it from starting the hard copy manual, gathering dust, through the digital process and up to and including the knowledge sharing platform. And it interlinks with the other chapters.
Thank you. And that's all part of LinkedIn. We can see that through LinkedIn.
No, that's in the book.
Oh, in the book. Oh, perfect. Okay, that's lovely.
The newsletters take various aspects and expand them. So some of them show how to use video and what kind of subjects lend themselves, customer facing, uniform, how to use the brand, how not to use the brand, all that kind of thing.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Penny, Simon, you've got your hand up. I know you've got a question, so it sort of covers a lot of things. So it'd be great for you to sort of tell us the question. So
could I just say thank you very much, Penny? You've always been one of my go-to people in franchising, and I truly admire what you're doing. I think having been a franchisee, and I'll be really honest here, I never opened the manual once. Okay. And the reason I never opened my manual once was because there was a really strong support team. So if we had any problems, it was easier to pick the phone up and speak to my support manager and say, look, I need an advert for a new sales consultant. What do I do? So that was the realities of the manual for me. But I guess I'm thinking about this, and I know the manual's moved on now. Look, if I was a franchisee now, what I'd like to have would be a knowledge base that is interrogated using AI. Okay, that for me is the vision, or my vision, of what the modern manual should look like, really. And I think a lot of the way the manuals have been developed and shaped over the years are more of less as a useful guide, but more as a necessary evil in the franchising process. Your lawyer tells you you've got to have a franchise agreement and you've got to have an operations manual. So it was more of an essential element, but not a very usable document. And I just think that, again, if I was a franchisee now, if I had a knowledge base that I can interrogate using AI, for example, that will be so much easier than having to look for everything through a physical manual, if you like. What are your thoughts on that? Because there are aspects of that. I mean, you've got to talk about confidentiality. You've got to talk about, knowing when somebody is accessing the information. Is that only achieved through having it on the blockchain, for example? I don't know. I mean, that's sort of, throwing a few balls up in the air and seeing which ones land.
I mean, I take your point absolutely, that if you've got a great support system, then perhaps it's easier to pick the phone up or arrange a Zoom call or something like that. But one of the things that we're trying to do is to work a bit smarter and allow the support team to focus on those franchisees that need the most support in favor, rather than perhaps you, Simon, who are perfectly able, but would just like to know, oh, I can't remember where so-and-so is, or how do I do this? I would like to think that franchise support is uniformly great. But when you've got a network that is growing to, I mean, for example, with Costa Coffee, when I did the manual back in 2006, 7 and 8, which was many, many volumes, they had 2,000 outlets. They now have 4,000. Now, being able to train to the same quality across that network is going to be difficult. You probably get 20% who are top trainers and the 80% who are just okay. And if they delegate, then the quality may diminish further. With video and a dynamic knowledge sharing environment like this, you have one single source of truth.
Yeah, I get that. I think, and I agree with that entirely. But the operations manual serves a dual purpose, doesn't it? It's the demonstration, it's the tangible demonstration of the franchisor's know-how, which they have to have somewhere. You have to be able to demonstrate that you have know-how, which is part of the franchise agreement. So I get that. And for me, it's trying to strike the right balance between having the document that demonstrates that you are a proper business format franchise. There is genuine know-how which can be passed on and utilised by a franchisee without any previous skills or experience. And then there's the useful document that is the go-to source of information and guidance for the franchisees. And I've always found that difficult to balance those two things. One, the necessity of having it, and two, making it into a useful document. Potentially, the more useful you make it, the more you are moving away from the requirement to have documented know-how.
I think we need to move away from this concept of having a document. I think we need to move into knowledge sharing, because we are the franchisor is sharing the know-how. Knowledge has moved on in terms of just dull text-heavy operations manuals. It now needs to be dynamic. It needs to be engaging, and it needs to help scale the business. Now, before, most of the manuals that I was involved with didn't even think about how to develop and grow the business.
And yeah, I agree with that. But there's a good reason for that. It was more about a checkbox exercise that the franchisor went through than a usable document that is there to help a franchisee grow their business.
Yeah, what we really want is something that's useful, because if it's useful, it'll get used.
I agree.
If it's used, I agree. Then the system will be replicated faithfully.
Yes.
Faithfully as it possibly can be.
Yeah.
So by involving the teams to create the videos, and I mean, it is a simple exercise to do it. Okay, supervised by the franchise manager and sanctioned by head office, but by involving them in the creation process. I mean, it is the franchisor owns the manual, but the franchisee needs to use the manual to develop the business, to develop it to scale. And if you have an incentivized continuous improvement policy, so that everybody takes ownership of this information, then I think you have a much, much greater chance and opportunity to create a business that is improving continuously and growing all the time. People are thinking about improvement. How many franchisees do you know where the teams follow slavishly and they don't think about innovation? Today, young people want to join a business that shares their vision, their values. They want to be part of something that's growing, and they can make a contribution, and that contribution is valued.
Yeah, no, I fully understand and agree that. As I said, it's about elevating the operations manual. And so every time you have a field visit, for example, from a franchise support manager, their point of reference is what's in the manual, in the knowledge. If they're talking about sales or whatever, that was the only thing. I just think, as a former franchisee, it was, to find the answer to a question, I would have to go through reams and reams of folders and ring binders, and it was easier to pick the phone up. And I just think the key to it is how we make the information accessible, and I think that's where AI comes in.
Yes, Simon, this is all AI based.
Yeah.
Because you can't develop a knowledge sharing platform without AI being involved. using QR codes means it's instant. So if you've got a barista who needs to strip down the coffee machine at the end of the day, and he's new and he hasn't quite got it, just capture the QR code, go straight into the process. He can follow it at his own speed, in his own language, either hear it, see it, or read it.
How do you maintain? Sorry, I won't ask anything else after this. I promise you. How do you maintain the confidentiality? Because what you've got to be careful of is the more broader you open it out to, the more chances are that your system can be nicked by somebody else. I mean, how many Me Too franchise brands are out there because somebody managed to get hold of the operations manual and build their network on the basis of somebody else's know-how?
Right, a knowledge sharing platform is password protected. You can have different levels of protection, different access levels. So it is fully protected. QR codes, probably you'd only use them. I mean, to a QR code on a coffee machine, that's universally available to anybody who has that coffee machine. So equipment wouldn't be a problem. Anything else perhaps would be in the back office. So it would be very well protected. I mean, this is a very tried and tested way of knowledge sharing on a dynamic platform. The one that I use is manual.2. So if anybody would like to have a look at it and see it in practice, there are plenty of examples on their site. They're the example that I use in my book because in my research on the generations and how they learn and how knowledge sharing is what needs to be created in a franchise rather than the dull. I mean, you just, anybody who's got children or teenagers who are on YouTube, they're not going to read loads of text. They want something that's engaging. They want something that's going to help them learn and grow.
Ken,
I absolutely agree, 100%. It's like when you buy a new car, isn't it? How many people want to sit there and go through the user manual? They don't. They just want to get out and drive it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with a computer. As soon as or a bit of software, I don't look at the instructions. I just play around with it until I've either crashed the system or made it go. What I'm trying to do, I think, the whole point of my book was to open up a debate on how we can best share the considerable knowledge, the IP that we've amassed. I say as franchisors, I'm obviously not a franchisor, but franchisors have amassed. How can we engage teams so they perform better, they're engaged better, they succeed? Because obviously they have bought into the process, and it's our responsibility to give them all the tools, and the more powerful the tools, the better everything will turn out for them, and they can have a successful business. This is really what I talk about. It's not always franchising, but I talk about in all the podcasts. And the Americans absolutely love it because they feel that it's something different. You talk about an operations manual to an 18-year-old and their eyes just glaze over and think, you know, it's a stopping point immediately. It prevents you from wanting to know anything more. Talk about knowledge sharing. Try it. What would you prefer, to read an operations manual or contribute and be part of a developing knowledge sharing environment where everyone learns and grows?
Penny, we'll take one last question if it's okay from Ken, because you provided lots of information. So Ken, you put your hand up before. Would you like to?
Yeah, but can you hear? Yes.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
But Simon asked it.
Oh,
But
right, okay.
but in a way, it was connected to the same thing in terms of how we identify and protect knowledge share as part of the intellectual property. And even though now when we work on a project, as far as I can remember, the agreements don't talk about knowledge share, they talk about operating manuals.
Do they describe an operating manual? Do they tell you how to write it, how to create it? They don't.
No, they do. Well, no, they don't.
It's so long as you provide the knowledge and underpin the terms and conditions of the franchise agreement, which I have a tried and tested a way of doing, which again is in the book, that constitutes an operations manual.
Right.
It's if it's on a knowledge sharing platform, which is a dedicated one, nobody else has access except for password holders, and it can be withdrawn immediately for anybody who's leaving.
Yeah. Well, I think there might be a couple of lawyers on. I mean, I would have thought your point could have been covered in the definitions that's in every franchise agreement, as in describing or clarifying operating manual or knowledge share.
It can be electronic. I think one of the clauses does contain the type of information that is considered intellectual property and confidential, and it comes in all those formats.
Right. Okay.
I think Kat might be able to go further than I do with her knowledge.
Okay,
Kat,
thanks.
Would you like to have a quick view about that point?
Is she still on?
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
still here. It's just I'm doing it
Oh.
on my phone, so I couldn't work out how to get my
Sorry to put you on the spot, Kat.
That's all right. Yeah. Right. Shall I go back to the thing? Yeah. So yes, you're right. There is a definition. Well, there should be a definition in the franchise agreement saying what the operations manual or whatever it's referred to as in the franchise agreement, because not everyone calls it an operations manual. So whatever it is they call it, there'll be a definition, and then every time, let's refer to as operations manual, every time it's mentioned, it'll be in initial capitals to show that it's something that's defined in the franchise agreement. It will be referenced in the in the IP, because obviously it's IP, and ultimately throughout the agreement, it will be things like on resales, on the section on resales, it will have the basic bits in the franchise agreement that you've got to adhere to. These, we will grant you a resale automatic right to not automatic right, will grant you the right to sell your franchise to a person if you meet these criteria, but the further detail will be in the ops manual. So and as Penny says, that's referenced numerous times throughout the agreement, and as Penny also said, you have to make sure that the agreement and the ops manual are in tandem there, because obviously you don't want to be saying in your agreement, oh yes, further details in the ops manual, and there isn't. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I think
it does, doesn't it? It does. I just think, as I said, I just think the word operations manual was born more from lawyers making sure that a franchisor is protecting their intellectual property. So I think there's a part of that you're never going to get away from, because and we had a case 2 years ago where a judge ruled that an individual didn't have any previous skills or experience in a particular sector. So how on earth could they make a success of this business? And I think there is a fine line. There has to be a stiff stuffy element to it, but equally there has to be an all-embracing, workable, valuable document that helps somebody grow and develop their business. So I think there's two parts to play, you know, and I think, and that's the problem that we're going to have.
I think there's another element too, because the franchisor needs to protect those minimum standards and be seen to be doing it. So one of the things that is, and again, it's in the book, there is certain information that must be on that knowledge sharing platform or operations manual of any description, and that is how you underpin the terms and conditions of the franchise agreement and meet those minimum standards.
And that's it, isn't it? There's just as we have boilerplate clauses in the agreement, there are boilerplate things that need to be in the operations manual. Yeah. And the trick and the skill is how to make those user friendly while still serving the purpose of being a boilerplate provision.
They have to be there, and it's well set out in the book how to do it. It's how you reach those standards, those procedures, and if you use video to show, don't tell, people will remember that much easier than they will reading a lot of heavy text. Even if
I fully understand that.
I think it's, first of all, it's developing a knowledge sharing mindset as opposed to procedures, tick box exercises from the traditional operations manual. If the manual can contain anything electronic, digital, that is part of a knowledge sharing environment. And the tools are digital, video, and they're text-based as well. You can upload documents, you can have anything on that platform that spreads knowledge in the best possible way.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So
I agree.
Simon, thank you for that. Any other questions from the floor?
Oh, is your book available as an audio book, by the way?
It isn't, because it's so heavily detailed.
Oh, okay.
It is in Kindle version.
It is.
Yep, there's a Kindle.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant.
And is it available on, did you say on Amazon, Penny?
It is, yes. And if you go into my website, which was the first QR code, it's an all-embracing link tree where I've got my manual writer's website, my author website, podcasts, immediate access to Amazon. And if anybody wanted to leave a review, there's also a link for that. And my articles, link to sign up for the newsletter. There's everything on that one QR code.
You're reading outside of the industry as well. It's not just a franchise specific book,
No.
is it?
No, it isn't. It was niched down because that's obviously my passion. But there is another one coming out which is universal, because what I've thought, or generic, because what I've realized is that when I'm talking on my podcast, people don't readily transition from franchising to their own businesses that have got nothing to do with franchising. I may say that this is the perfect model, but still, whatever business they're running, If it's not franchised, they somehow don't make that leap. So we are in the process of doing that. I'm also very heavily, as Simon, I think you know, involved with AI. I build chatbots, I build agents. I've got my my little my wizards on the Linktree site as well, so you can ask it anything about the operations manual. So I'm very tech orientated. All I would warn against is using the LLMs and believing they're all right, because they hallucinate. You have to check everything. If you're creating a manual, whatever you're creating, do it in your voice. Train the LLM to do it in your voice, which I've done. And now it just picks it up and writes everything that I want in my voice.
Train people in terms of how to interrogate, how to prompt as well, or guidance on how to prompt.
Yeah. The book has got a QR code in the introduction and throughout, which goes straight to my knowledge sharing platform and tools and resources. It's only a small one, but it gives you everything from putting together a questionnaire to get your franchisee's opinion on updating a manual. It'll show you how to create an SOP. I've got a huge information database, and my little wizard is there. You can ask it anything.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Penny. Really appreciate your presentation, and I've been sort of involved in sort of manuals for many years, and I think I picked up a lot as well. I want to buy a copy of that book as well. So everybody, thank you for attending. Next month, shall I say, we have Jamie Moses, who's the franchise manager at Barclays Bank. And Barclays, as you know, had a very high profile in franchising, sort of stepped away from it for a while, and now are really pushing to get back into it. And I think that'll be a really interesting talk from Jamie to see what they're doing and how they can help franchise businesses. I'd also like, if possible, we've got our own little barcode on our if you look on your screens, it'd be fantastic if you could sort of just sort of snap that barcode and give us a review. We've got a review system in place, and that would really help us. And I won't have Julie berating me when I next see her, because I would have done my job right. So that'd be brilliant, everybody. So I'd like to thank everybody. Have a great weekend. I hope I've done a good job, and I'll see you all next month, if not before.
Thank you.